Arts, Parks, Health, and Aging Committee. It's the 22nd day of June. I'm joined by Mr. Reyes, and Mr. Wesson should be here momentarily. Mr. Clerk, what items do we have?
Well, starting with item number 1, Board of Library Commissioners report relative to approval of a ballot measure for a citywide parcel tax to fund library services. This item's also been referred to Budget and Finance Committee and has been waived by the Rules and Elections Committee.
Great, thank you. Could I have the representative of the Library Department here? We have one speaker card.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Martin Gomez, General Manager, Library Services, and Chris Morita, Assistant General Manager with me, as well as Kyle Milliger from our Business Services Manager.
Great.
So, sir, on the 16th of June, the Library Commission passed a resolution that asked us to go forward with the preparation of a parcel tax measure to help fund library services. As you know, in the last couple of years, the library has been dinged with respect to reductions in our workforce. Our situation has gone from 1,100 employees citywide to approximately 800 employees citywide. That has resulted in a loss of hours of service for the library. We've had a couple of reductions already this year, and effective July 6th, we're planning to move from 6 days a week service to 5 days a week service. This neighborhood public library emergency funding measure is what we're calling it, would allow us to restore library hours, provide funding for after-school programs, and stabilize our book budget, as well as relieve our reliance on the general fund. As you know, the library has a two-pronged revenue source. One is from the charter appropriation, which gives us approximately $75 million a year. And then we also are funded in part through the general fund as well, with another amount of money that helps pay for indirect costs for the library system. In order to get to the point where we are today and asking your request or asking your support to move this along, we did work with a firm to conduct a poll on to determine whether or not there would be enough voter support for such a measure. Our pollster determined that at that point in time, which was between May 14th and May 18th, which is when the poll was taken, that 68% of the voters would support a measure at $39 per parcel, and that would generate roughly $30 million a year for the library's budget. We are seeking approval to move this along and have it heard before the full council by June 30th, which is the deadline for that to be submitted or approved by the council, so that the city attorney can write language, ballot language, and then bring it back to the council for their approval. November 2010 is what we polled against. The November 2010 is the most likely opportunity I think we have to be successful in this measure, in part because there is an expected high voter turnout for that election because of the statewide governor's race as well as the Senate race. And to our knowledge, there are not going to be any other city tax measures or any other measures on that might be competitive with our proposal. Again, it's $39 per parcel and about $3.25 a month.
Would this, how much a month?
$3.25.
Okay, and would this cover you where you could restore 7 day a week at regional? What would it restore?
It would restore 6 days of service.
6 days of service?
Correct. At all libraries.
And how much does the general fund commit to you right now by charter?
I'll ask Ms. Milliger to respond to that.
48, by charter, $75 million.
75 million, which is a percentage of what property, or of the general fund out of the property tax?
The property tax valuation.
Evaluation,
Right.
but not of the property tax, but of the evaluation.
The valuation.
Yeah, the
correct.
charter, of the charter.
Correct.
So 75 million. So
Correct.
this would give you 100 million.
Correct.
But your budget in the past is about 130 million, right?
Correct.
But this is just a very much a basic improvement to have that. Mr. Reyes, any questions?
When this effort was being contemplated, are there other efforts to deal with these issues in other areas? Is there a lot of competition for this type of a request from the constituents?
There have been, of course, as you know, some private dollars donated to the library through our library foundation. Those dollars have never been significant enough that would close this $30 million gap to add service hours. In addition, when we did our research and looking at this kind of measure, we note that there have been several measures in the last June ballot for libraries that were successful. And based on that, we think our history of being very well supported by the community, as you recall, in 1998, a little over 74% of the voters supported a bond measure that helped construct several libraries in the city. We believe that the community values their libraries and would be very willing to support this as well.
Great. And according to some of the research I have, other cities have already moved forward with this approach, San Francisco, Marin County, and they've been able to give themselves a level of support that
That's right.
provides a pretty good service there.
Most recently, South Pasadena passed a parcel tax for their library system, and in the last election, Marin County supported, as well as San Anselmo and San Rafael. Oakland has also supported something, and in general, what this has allowed those libraries to do is to have the cities have other general fund monies available for other services.
What would it cost to put it on the ballot?
Unknown. You can do a zero campaign, or you can do a...
No. Would it cost anything just to put it on the
Cost the
ballot?
city, excuse me. I think the estimates are, the city clerk is here.
Maybe I could ask the city clerk to come to the center table. You got an extra seat. Good morning, Ms. Langley.
Good morning, members.
Saw your letter in the downtown news.
Did you?
Yes, thank you.
Actually, City Clerk's note to council is item 2 on your agenda, but to answer your question, being that 2010 is the county running the state election, not the city, and the city clerk was not budgeted any money for running any elections in 2010, the cost for us to piggyback onto the county's administration of the 2010 election would be approximately $4.2 million for one ballot
Why
measure.
do they charge us $4.2 million? If
Because
we
they
have
can.
we have a variety of issues on there.
They charge us, of that $4.2 million, they charge us $3.6 million, and then there would be an additional $600,000
Yeah, but
city
why do
cost.
they charge us?
That
What are
is-
they doing? It's just they have bowling places in our city,
That is their policy, sir. It is their election, and that's the charge.
but what are they charging for? Because they're
Adding our item.
one line item on the ballot, is that what they're charging? Is that, in essence, it is?
I would imagine that it looks apparent that it's simply adding one line to a ballot, but the complication of doing that for every precinct in the city of Los Angeles, as well as the voter pamphlet, this is, the county does not, never anticipate the city to participate in this election, so this is pretty much their cost to us, and it is their election, so it is the price, the cost that they put down.
I understand it, but I think we should look at that. Maybe the CLA could help us look at that and just ask what we could do, what the actual cost is. How much does it cost, to figure? I know there's some.
So you would like the county to compile why that they charge that much?
Right. I
Okay.
mean, what's it cost? So if there's, and I don't know the precinct numbers in the city of Los, how many precincts do we have in the city of Los Angeles?
I think 180, something like that.
180, and 180 into 4 million goes to how much per precinct it actually costs, which seems a little high, but we'll look at that. I think this is the question if we go forward with this. So thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Well, we're going to call some cards from the public. If everybody filled out cards, you could fill in the tables here. Verdell Flores, Ray Stone, Jack Humphreyville. Ms. Flores, you want to start?
Thank you. Verdell Flores. Since the City Council has refused to support the Library Department and the residents of LA by providing decent library services, I believe as a committee that is responsible for overseeing the library department, you are duty-bound to support this measure at the full council. Just ask President Garcetti to see the petitions and the postcards that he has received from the residents of LA pleading with you not to destroy the library. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Stone?
My name is Roy Stone. I agree with library management that we should encourage the public to have the opportunity to support their library system, and we believe that this should be recommended and go forward as quickly as possible so that we can begin the campaign.
Thank you. Mr. Humphreyville?
My name's Jack Humphreyville. I'm from the Great Council District number 4. The $39 parcel tax is scheduled to raise $30 million. $10 million of that will go back to restore services to 6 days a week. What happens to the other $20 million? Where is that going? Before this is cleared for the ballot, I think there needs to be very specific ground rules as to how the money is going to be treated. The city should not be able to raid the library department. It should not be able to allocate extra monies to it unless predetermined, and that includes in part of the full cost recovery, and it should not be a dumping ground for city employees like the Department of Water and Power has been. I also think we need to do a full financial review. For example, the related costs are about $50 million of the $130 million budget. That just seems much too much. I don't know where it's all going. We don't have detailed breakouts. I have no trust or confidence in the numbers, but I think it needs to be reviewed. I think we also need a long-term plan with regards to the library department, so we know that we're getting our bang for the buck and that it's being operated efficiently and for the people, and what its role is in the community. I also think we need significant oversight, and that oversight may be with a new board, an accountability board that was mentioned in the ballot measure that's staffed with qualified people. I also believe that we should reconstitute the board to make sure that we have people that understand how a $130 million organization with 828 people operates. Maybe it should be 1,000 people or 1,100 people, but I think we need to get a full and complete disclosure with great oversight. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Gomez, could you answer some of those questions about 10 million and 20 million, or what that?
Yes, sir. The funds would be used to restore 6 days of service. As you know, we lost 100 people from layoffs, and that would restore those positions to allow us to extend the library service program to 6 days a week. We are
Well, but the gentleman said only 10 of the 20 would be 30. Is that true?
the other funds would be going into our operations, essentially, to keep the library open those other hours.
But all the hours, Mr. Humphreyville, if you want to just listen to the response, the $30 million that would be raised, the gentleman said only 10 would be used to restore it, and where's the other 20 go? Is that a true statement?
It would go to related costs. Yes, it's a true statement.
That it would, that only
For related costs.
related cost of the operation of the library, so it would all go to the library.
Correct.
It wouldn't go to anywhere else. Well, Mr. Humphreyville, I mean, I'll give you another minute because you came down here if you wanted to contest this here, because the librarian is saying all 30 million goes to the library, and all the costs that go to the library.
Right.
So you're shaking your head. And you could speak at the microphone. This is, yeah. And do you have a library card, Mr. Humphreyville? Very good. Good
I
citizen
was
there.
also a contributor to the Reardon Library.
Good job.
Matter of fact, I raised a lot of money for the Reardon Library
Very good.
through my former employer.
Good.
The extra $20 million would go to the library. It's basically going to go pay all those related expenses, which are now currently being paid by the city. So that's another cost recovery action, which is not going to really go into the library to improve it. It's just moving the money around.
Well, if you don't have the money to keep the libraries open 6 days a week, you need to get money to raise it. If the people of Los Angeles love their libraries, which they do, and I feel confident that this is a good question to put before them, would $39 be worth it to keep the libraries full for 6 days a week?
If you want to play
Plus.
full cost recovery, then it should probably be about $100.
Well, I don't really go by a number that works. But anyway, thank you. All the $30 million is going to the library department. It's not going to the police department. It's not going to the park department. It's not going to the Anything, all the costs that relates to operation of a library?
It is no new cash to the library. It goes to pay.
Well, I think you're
existing
speaking a different English, Mr. Humphreyville, and this is $30 million that goes to the library department.
Tom, I've only done finance my whole life.
I got it, and I've only done public service my whole life. So $30 million goes to the library if the people approve it. So, to get that confused, anybody from the CEO's office here? Yeah. Thank you. No speaking in class, please. All right, there we go. Thank you. Just the CEO, can you, just to contest that, because
Jackie
he
Wagner,
makes a
CEO.
statement.
Yes, if it is approved as proposed, it would be dedicated to the library.
$30 million to the library, and whatever cost that means.
Yes, and yes, we would appreciate that other 20 going towards related costs. I think that would be fantastic.
Which would be possibly custodial costs, possibly book cost, possibly electricity costs, which I'd like to see water and power pay for, but we're in that other argument. That would it be. Okay, thank you very much. So we got that. Mr. Reyes.
Mr. Levine?
Yes.
Sure. I just want to mention a couple things in response to other issues that were raised. We are proposing that there would be a Citizens Oversight Committee to ensure that the funds were used as suggested. We're also proposing a senior exemption so that those who potentially would like to opt out, they could also participate that way. And we're proposing a 5-year sunset clause so that in the 5-year period, if there was concern that the library was not using the monies appropriately, they could certainly decide to not reapprove it.
So how do you reapprove it after 5 years?
You would have to go back to the voters, sir.
Okay, so this is temporary. I just assume if you put it, $39 is less than $1 a week. And even at our local markets, when you go, sometimes they give you an option to give $1 to the American Cancer Society or some other good charitable cause. I'm more inclined to say that this should just be $39 for a period of time with all that oversight. But I mean, for an extended period of time. I mean, a commitment to the people of Los Angeles who really care about the system. So maybe all the council could wait that or not. I don't think 5 years goes by too fast. So I'd rather be prepared for a commitment that we would do this and stand tall that Los Angeles supports the libraries. Mr. Reyes, I'm sorry.
Yeah, the dialogue we are having right now, this conversation, assertions being made that the money's not going to go to the library, and it's pretty clear in the level of cynicism that exists. Is there a way to break down how this money will be used in terms of when people say 30 million, what are you going to do with it? In our ability to defend and or promote this, is there a way to distinguish what the additional funds will do for the library, and how do we reinforce its commitment to the library as opposed to going somewhere else?
Yes, there is. I think it's important for us to translate those dollars into actual service delivery. The broad blanket, if you will, that I can say now is that it would actually restore hours of service. What's inside those hours are the transactions that take place with children who come to the library, the after-school homework services that they receive through the library. So there are a multitude of services that are within each hour of service.
So the 30 million just opens up the doors. That's all it does. I mean, it's everything, but it's not going to do anything else.
Right. We're not buying a new space bookmobile or anything. We're basically restoring service on the good, on the good foundation that we already have currently.
We should find a way to amplify that, or find a way to demonstrate our commitment just to that, to reinforce confidence and hopefully support. But somehow we have to make that as clear as possible.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I just wanted to ask the committee to ensure that there were instructions to the city attorney to ensure there is proper ballot measure language and in the referral to council, that you at least defer to the city attorney on whatever may be required in terms of processing.
Madam City Attorney?
I would concur, but I would also remind this committee that there are 2 legal deadlines that you need to be aware of. And the first is that the last day for council to request the city attorney's office to prepare the resolution placing the measure on the ballot is June 30th, and the last day for council to adopt an election resolution is July 14th. So you need to actively on this.
What happens if the council says, let's go in a city election? Because there has to be, how much is the foundation, and you can't speak for the foundation, you have a library foundation, which is one of the strong entities, like our Zoo Association, the Park Association, the River Foundation. Some of these groups are coming together for their specific tasks. Is the foundation supportive of this?
Yes, they are, and part of their mission is to advocate on behalf of the library. In my initial discussions with the leadership there is an interest in helping to support a campaign, if it actually goes to campaign mode.
Right. Very good. And there would be oversight. I also wanted to say, too, I'm sorry the gentleman who lives in my district came and spoke and talked, because there is oversight. He left. There is oversight. And I think that's real key. I think why the library's been successful and loved is every building that they built, every process in the last 2 bonds plus have been successful. And a lot has to go to the people on either side of you as the great man from San Francisco makes his way in Los Angeles. But we're proud of Wilson High School, and I'm not sure what high school do you go to?
Oh, no, I'm from the other valley,
The Central Valley?
San Gabriel Valley.
That's all right. That's where we all came from. Okay, from the mission. Very good. So we're going to, Mr. Reyes, recommend approval. I just think we should remove the 5-year on it. If we put it on once, we go once. If the people love the libraries, they're going to love the libraries now, and you're not going to disappoint us. So I would just delete that aspect of the 5-year recall, but have the oversight, and come forward to council as soon as possible. We could talk to Mr. Parks to have it go through committee. Anyone else in this room want to speak on this item, number 1? Sure, approach the bench, as they say across the street. Chris, if you give up your seat. You got to give your seat up, Chris. Sorry.
Holly Walcott, our executive officer, will speak a little bit why the county charges so much, but I also wanted to add, if it is the will of this committee to send this matter to council to set it for the 2010 ballot, that you add an additional instruction of some kind, such as instructing the CAO to investigate what fund the $4.2 million should be allocated from, because at some point, whether at this point or later during the placement process, we will require that funding.
I got it, but I want to talk to the county, too, and see why it costs $4.2 million. It just seems
Holly
like...
may be able to answer some of
Right.
the questions.
Holly Walcott, Executive Officer of the City Clerk. In the county, you had asked earlier how many precincts. There are 3,584 precincts in the county's elections. Of those, the city has 40%.
50. Oh, amended 50.
Oh, 50%, 1811 of those being in the city. When the county runs an election, it prorates the cost depending on the number of different jurisdictions that participate in the election. So if it's a state election and a county and the city, then it is prorated by the percentage of each. When they charge us, they have, the county register recorder has approximately 900 employees. Approximately 300 of those are election employees. And you can imagine how many, and that's just regular employees. That's not to mention the number of employees that actually work, temporary workers around the election.
That's a question, Holly. How much does it cost you to operate a citywide election?
It costs us $18 million.
18 million.
to $19 million to run a city election.
Okay. Good. All right. Well, we'll look at that. We'll have to discuss, because we may have to go to our city election in May if we don't think we could do this in March. In March.
2011 for the city of
March. Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll just have the council sharing that. Thank you all. Everybody have a nice day. Next item would be...
Item number 2, this city clerk report relative to cost estimate to include city ballot measures on the 2010 primary or general election.
Right.
This item has also been referred to the Budget and Finance Committee and has been waived by the Rules and Elections Committee.
Jude, if you just, for the record, just say we'll add 1 and 2 together, but thank you, Holly.
Holly Walcott with the Office of the City Clerk. As previously discussed in the prior item, it costs approximately $4 million to $4.2 million to put the first ballot measure, and then incrementally, any other items that are added, it's around $300,000, $200,000 to $300,000 per ballot measure because of the printing.
Very well. Thank you.
As a matter of closing up, you could note and file our report, and if you instruct CAO or another entity to identify where the cost is coming from, that could be included on item 1, but item 2 you could note and file.
Thank you very much. Yeah, Madam CAO.
Jackie Wagner again, CAO. I just wanted to say that as far as instructions to the CAO on funding, I think that discussion should be done in the Budget and
I
Finance.
think so too, but it's good to have it here too. You can't talk enough about the budget.
Okay.
So we add that to it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 3.
Item number 3, motion Weezer Reyes relative to restoring funding for the licensed child care program in the amount of $6,078,588 and related matters. This item has also been referred to the Budget and Finance Committee.
Could I have staff first? We welcome our city controller. Wendy, go see what Wendy wants. Okay, thank you.
Good morning, committee members. Regina Adams, Executive Officer for Recreation.
That's just a joke. I love Wendy.
Regina Adams, Executive Officer for Recreation and Parks, and also with me at the table, I have Assistant General Manager Vicki Israel and Kevin Regan. For this item, it was regarding the licensed child care program at Recreation and Parks. And I'd just like to start off to say that last week we had the disheartening task of providing pink slips to our child care and therapeutic staff. But this was a directive that was approved by the mayor and the council for layoffs for the new fiscal year. With this, for the licensed child care program, as we have mentioned before this committee as well as the council, departments were directed to come up with budget reductions. And so for anything Recreation and Parks presents, it's going to affect the public. So this was no easy task or easy decision for us to make. But we did put up the licensed child care program because we no longer can subsidize this program. There are many issues that affected our decision. One, we've had a decrease in the number of children that are in this program. We have a capacity of over 1,500 right now. We have just about 908 kids in the program, which is only about 59% of capacity. We also, last year, through the state, we lost a state grant, which also affected our funding situation. And we have been subsidizing this program. We subsidize many of the programs that we offer in this department and to the public. But for this program, we only bring in a little over $2 million in revenue, and it costs us over $7-8 million to provide this. And we're not able to continue to subsidize. Also, for our budget situation, as the mayor and council has approved, we now are tasked with paying all of our utility costs as well as some of our own employee benefit costs. So that is going to be a new part that's going to affect us effective July 1st. So about $40 million of our budget right up front, those are must-pays that we have to cover. So we're not able to subsidize a lot of the programs that we've been doing in the past. For this one program, it affected over 70 employees. We have full-time and part-time employees who provide the licensed child care program. What that means is we still are going to be providing child care services. It's just that we're going to be doing it in a different manner. The licensed child care program was something that grew out of the 1980s when the LA Unified School District started going into the off-track system. And so this was an opportunity for us to help the parents by providing licensed child care for their kids when they were off track. And also, too, it was an opportunity for us to also get grant funding to assist in doing that. But now the LA Unified School District is moving to a traditional track system, and also, too, with the funding situation that has drastically changed, we're not able to continue doing this. I passed out 2 documents to you. One is a copy of the letter that we presented to the parents last week, telling about the status of the licensed child care program. But it also tells them that there are going to be some things that are still similar in the child care services we provide, and some things that are going to be different. Also, too, starting yesterday, we went off the license. We do that every year. For the summer program, we offer summer day camps, and we go off the licensing, and we provide services for the kids. The programs that we offer in the summer and also going forward in the fall for the after-school programs will be more recreational-based versus what we had done in the licensed child care program before. But this is something that we have done every year. We go off the license in the summer, and then we would previously come back in the fall. But this time, we're not going to do that. We also have a couple of facilities that will continue on licensing, but for 24 of our 26 sites, that will not continue. We also have the task of taking over the Joy Picus Child Care facility that's located right here in City Hall South on July 1st. That was something that was placed in the budget for us to take over. What we're trying to do is we're trying to figure out how can we get the most bang for our buck as far as the services we provide to the public. In the spreadsheet that I gave to you, if you could look at that, what we're trying to show you here is the child care services that Recreation and Parks provides. As you can see, we started off, I'm talking about the long sheet here, the spreadsheet. What we're showing here are our child care services that Recreation and Parks provides. You'll see, first we talk about the licensed child care, then we talk about the summer day camp, and then we talk about the after-school program. The one thing that, with the licensing that we had through the state, was that it allowed us to have kids for a longer amount of hours each week. The difference now is that we will be limited to having the kids up to 15 and a half hours per week when we start back in the fall for after-school programming. And also to the school, the curriculum will be a little bit different. As I mentioned before, it'll be more recreational-based versus what was provided before in the licensed child care.
Can I ask a question? You mentioned some numbers like 1,500 to 900?
Yes.
How many children in the city of Los Angeles were involved with this program?
If you look at the bottom of the first column there, we had 908 children weekly out of a licensing capacity of 1,536, about 59% of our
Where's the others going, do you think?
Well, it's a combination of things. First of all, I think for the unemployment that's happened in the economy, the parents have pulled their children out. And, of course, the parents have other outlets as far as
Is birth rate down?
I beg your pardon?
Is the birth rate down at all?
I don't know if the birth rate's down.
Okay. But there is a significant number down. But it's 1,500 children that were being served by Recreation and Parks, then now down to 900, and now that's being eliminated.
Only on the licensed child care side.
At the licensed child care side. I got it.
Correct.
And you're trying to provide other options.
Right.
All right. Thank you. Does Ms. Israel or Mr. Reagan have anything to add to this?
Not at this time.
Not at this time. Mr. Reyes? Yeah.
Well, one, I want to thank the department, because I know you're struggling with many different issues, and there's a lot of balls in the air and a lot of uncertainty, and we're doing what we can. But I also know that we've been having a dialogue with Mr. Muckery, and last time that we engaged this issue, we had essentially raised questions about what our options are, what alternatives might exist, different approaches, and he mentioned this white paper he was working on and looking at how to deal with these challenges and these gaps. And we have yet to see that report, and it's rather, how can I say, disconcerting, because I introduced a motion along with the one that we are addressing today, and for whatever reason, the clerk never received the report from RAP, and therefore was never given a file number, and did not make it to this agenda. So at this point, Councilman, I would hope that we could review the motion that I had asserted back during the budget process.
Right. My staff alerted me to that.
And we can schedule that for next week.
Right.
And do all the necessary Brown Act procedures to make sure we can be agendized and everything that goes with that. But I do have several concerns. My staff has been meeting with parents that are engaged with this issue, in particular down in Downey and Lincoln Heights. And I have a series of questions that I'm hoping Mr. Muckery could answer, and or yourselves, for the next meeting. I wanted to address him today, but he's not here. But our goal really is to maintain a licensed child care program. I understand the budget constraints. Believe me, I'm trying to be as responsive and as cooperative as possible, but I do feel these questions need to be asked to see if we could find other options. Of course, we know there's negotiations going on between the CEO and the unions, and that's something that we can't really have any real definition or clarity on, because they are negotiations and they are going through its process. But there's a second option, that is for the city to create or maintain the standards associated with the license program, including but not limited to training the staff. So I think it's the parents who want to see a standard that allows for them to know that their children are benefiting while they are present within our responsibility within our programs. And that's something that I think we should get some kind of focus and or maybe look at ourselves and say, can we achieve these standards? What is it that they are elevating? When we do have the licensed care, why not try to achieve that goal? So these are the questions that maybe we can get feedback on this. But the white paper in of itself, what's the status of that document?
What we did was, for the white paper, that's why we put together this one spreadsheet, which is basically taking information that we had started trying to prepare in the white paper, and we laid it out this way, thinking that it would be easier to see side by side the different child care services that we provided. So we took it and basically put it this way. Thought it would be easier for people to understand the various programming. One of the misconceptions that people have is that we are leaving the child care services altogether, and that's not what we're doing.
No,
We're just going
yeah.
off the license.
I understand, but when you speak to license, you're speaking to standards. There's a certain standard that a child can benefit from when you have a licensed program. And all we're asserting is that in the white paper, my assumption was that we were going to give a concerted effort to structure our programs so that you do have that quality and that level of training so that children can benefit as if they were in a licensed care program. It's a standard issue, and that's what I thought the white paper was going to do.
One of the things for the standards, as far as for our staff in recreation and parks and those especially that deal with the children, all of our staff, as far as for the leads on these programs, have bachelor's degrees. That's across the board. That is a requirement for civil service classifications that they're in. The difference that we have for the licensed child care, as far as for those classifications such as child care director and associate and program directors and so forth, is that they also had an additional 15 units of early childhood education. Otherwise, their qualifications are the same as the other recreational staff. That's why we were stating that the children are not going to get any subpar services if they're not in a licensed child care program, because our staff are required to have bachelor's degrees. And so that is a standard across the department as far as the leads.
And that would probably lead to some level of disclosure and or articulation of how those standards are being maintained. And I'm assuming the white paper will do that. As we know, we need to have a set of directives coming from management and how we establish these standards. What are the types of responsibilities that reinforces the achievement of that standard? And that's what I'm hoping we could see.
You will see that, as well as...
Mr. Reyes, I think you made a good point about your motion, that we could schedule this together. Right. Hold this matter on the desk for... Well, if you allow me, Mr. Chair, to go through the questions, but I'm trying to flesh out this assertion so that there's no confusion as to what we expect when the white paper does come back. I appreciate this matrix, I appreciate this information, but it's almost like a skeleton. We need to understand, okay, will this white paper achieve the goals that this council in establishing policy, if you can meet those goals that the directive of the motion explicitly states. So that's on the white paper, so we would hope to get some feedback on that and hopefully some clarity on the standards issue as well. The second question is, and please bear with me, and I'll just go through them because I know we're running out of time. We all recognize that the child care program has been subsidized for many years. Please describe how the department has covered the cost of the program. What percentage of the costs were covered by what the parents of the children paid? So we can have a distinguishing variable there, and I think we all know how much. I mean, it's a big number that the city subsidizes, but I think it's important to understand those different levels. Third question is, as you are preparing to eliminate this program, did your department approach the parents of the children and ask them if they could pay more for the services rendered? So that's an important question. 4, please describe what are the county and state regulations that apply to our child care program. 5, without a licensed childcare program and under the after-school format that you anticipate implementing in its place, how similar and/or different are our standards from the licensing regulations of the county and state? Please create a matrix outlining the similarities and the differences. And last, direct the rep we can get the rep to report back on funding options within the department that maintains the licensed staffers. If I can have the CLA and the CAO to report back on external funding options to maintain the program. So that would be my last directive.
Very good. So we could have that, and if you could follow that in writing to the...
Yeah, we'll have this, we'll put this in a letter form, and we'll make sure that questions are complete. Again, I know there's a lot you've done for the city. I know you've done a lot for my district. I truly am appreciative. But I need to also respond to the parents who are very concerned, who have been working with my staff, and this is part of our advocacy role, and trying to address the needs of our bosses. Thank you.
Thank you. If I could ask you to stand back into the first seats. LaShawn Wiggers, Eric Sanjurjo, and Cheryl Parizia. Whoever wants to speak first.
Hello, my name is LaShawn Wiggers. I'm a child care director. And some of the questions that you ask are some of the questions that all my parents are concerned with. We provide a quality service. The parents are able to go to work because they understand that there are standards that the department and that our child care center has to do in order for them to go to work, and knowing that their kids are going to be safe. Each person working in a child care facility do have to have those extra units because it takes a special person to work with kids. Not everybody can work with kids. And you have to have an understanding of children and their development to work with them. And you don't want just anyone working with our children. The hours that we offer child care from about 2:30 to 7 p.m. That allows parents to go to work and drive safely back to pick up their children. If you cut these services for these parents, the hours that they're able to have their children in a qualified child care center is going to be dramatically reduced, which is going to reduce their work ability because they're going to have to worry about how am I going to get off of work and rush back to the center to pick up my child. And a lot of the centers, in a lot of the areas, there are not quality child care centers. They are not centers that are able to handle what the needs of the child. We work with children in a whole gamut of things. We help them their self-esteem. We help them with homework. We help them with conflict resolution. We help them be better people. So with schools being cut, where do children have to go to develop? And you're cutting all these programs, and the parents are very sad about this. The kids are sad. They're coming up to me. It's not just a place for them to play. It's a place for them to learn. And they're very upset about this, that they're losing their child care centers as well.
And believe me, I've gone to the centers in my other life. I helped put together a child care and preschool program and after-school program. So I understand completely, especially in parts of the city where there's limited structure for any kind of learning. And that, to me, is very important. So I appreciate everything you're saying.
Cheryl?
Thank you. I just, one, I want to applaud your efforts for digging deeper and trying to restore this fundamentally important service to the children of the city of Los Angeles and to families in the city of Los Angeles. Years ago, the department embarked and moved into licensed child care because, quite honestly, there is and was and continues to be an overwhelming need in our community for safe, constructive, and enriching programs to support children while their parents are working. Quite honestly, the law limits the ability of the department in what it can provide in an unlicensed setting. It is really apples and oranges. Number one is the quality of the staff. When the layoff notices went out and the mayor gave that award, or that directive, 70 qualified child care associates were fired. They are the heart and soul of this program. They are the educated and high-quality staff that have the relationships, the skill sets, the knowledge and abilities to provide this care. This care cannot be provided without the staff. That is the fundamental difference between the licensed child care program and the other programs that the department provides. Without that quality staff, there will not be, there cannot be programs of this caliber. And so again, we really support every effort to find sources for this funding, to bring back the staff, and to staff up these programs. There have been a number of factors which have driven down enrollment. Certainly the economy, certainly the loss of some state grants, but also the department was budgetarily planning to move out of this program, and so enrollments were not happening. There was not recruitment. Quite honestly, if there was a hope in a future, I'm certain that enrollments would creep back up to the maximum levels. There was a downsizing that was going on in anticipation of this, and so you should not look at enrollment figures as being indicative of anything other than the fact that the department was not engaged in the kind of active recruitment that generally goes on in these programs. So again, we would support virtually every effort to bring back these workers, to restore these programs in many of the beautiful child care centers that have been built throughout our park system. The workers are an asset, the centers are an asset. Let's bring the program back, and thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr.
Morning.
Sanjay
Senator Protocol, Office of Councilmember Wisar. Echoing the comments of Mr. Reyes, the councilman put in a motion asking for a look at some of the different contracts that we have with the city, and if we could use some savings from those. I think that originally were part of the strong budget proposed by the Coalition of City Unions, specifically our commodities purchases and personal services contracts. And then I think adding to that a previous motion we had done about just entirely getting rid of some of our outside contracts and bringing those in-house. If we could add to that request that the CAO specifically respond to those issues. I understand that they got some information from the departments this week and might be able to give us an update on what's a realistic target, but we were hoping we could utilize some of that money for this purpose. And then as kind of a plan B, we understood from the meetings with Rec and Park staff that the transport time actually takes out of the number of hours that they're allowed to spend with the kids. So we suggested that they speak to the school district to see if they'd be willing to handle the transport to these centers so that they could expand the hours every week. If we have to go the 15 and a half hours, that we could at least make sure that's all time with the kids and not transport time.
Thank you very much. I'm going to talk to Mr. Reyes and Mr. West and see if we could possibly schedule a special meeting on this subject because of the fiscal year approaching.
Right, and the deadline that's right in front of us.
Right.
So, thank you.
Very good. So this matter is going to be continued to further notice, and the notice would be soon. Thank you. Next item.
Item number 4, motion Rosendahl-Labange and resolution relative to authorizing the application and acceptance of grant funding from the California Department of Parks and Recreation under the Nature Education Facilities Grant Program for the Environmental Learning Center at Playa del Rey. This item is scheduled for council June 25th, 2010.
Hi.
Good morning, council members. My name is Deborah Washington.
Hi, Deborah.
I'm here at the table today with my colleagues, Ron Mayuyu and Arnell Aguilar, Bureau
Morning.
of Sanitation. The Bureau is seeking City Council support and approval for the filing of an application for the Nature Education Facilities Program. And we're seeking a funding total request of $3 million for our Environmental Learning Center at Playa del Rey. The Nature Education Facilities Program is one of the number of programs that falls under the auspices of Proposition 84. The Nature, and we'll reference it short, the NEF program, the funding is really being used to develop nature education facilities, including for construction and renovation for buildings, structure, and exhibit galleries that present.
Well, Ms. Washington, we're going to approve this.
You are?
Here we are.
Okay.
And we thank you. That's the kind of enthusiasm that we got to get a winning response from Prop 84 committee. So when could this be scheduled in council, Mr. Clerk?
June 25th.
June 25th. Any sooner?
That's as soon as we could do it.
Okay, June 25th, we're in council.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
You got it. Good job. You have a good CAO guy. He's got a nice auntie who's very good. Got history here. All right, next item.
Item number 5, Department of Aging report relative to acceptance of grant funds from the California Department of Aging, approval of the 2010-2011 area plan update for the 2009-2012 area plan, and execution of proposed senior services contracts for fiscal year 2010-2011.
Good morning, James Don, Department of Aging, and with me today is Jake Wood, our planning director. Before you is a request from the Department of Aging to accept 2 grant awards. One is for our Older Americans Act, and the second is for our health insurance.
And what's the dollar figure?
The Older Americans Act funding amount is $14,623,197.
Right.
And our high cap award is $645,900. We also request approval of our area plan update.
All right, good, James. What we're going to do, we're going to approve it, but when you come to council, have a little report specific to all members on what this means to their district and their constituencies and the service that aging provides.
Right, just on one other point, the opportunities for these kinds of programs, when they are introduced, does that come from the staff, or does it come from the council office, come from the mayor's office? When we start looking at these destinations for these grants, how does it percolate up?
Well, essentially, we begin each year with public hearings, town hall hearings throughout the city. Currently, we're actually holding public hearings in conjunction with our county partners so that we can actually create more of a regional approach of services. The funding itself, though, is driven by a funding formula based on factors such as the number of seniors within each service area, minority levels, and low income, so that we can target. That's required under the Older Americans Act. And then, based on the funding, the units are developed as to how many units under each particular type of senior services provided.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Recommend approval.
Thank you.
Please have something to distribute when we go to council.
Okay.
When's it going to council, Mr. Clerk?
That one I'd have to put together probably next Wednesday.
Very good. Thank you very much, Mr. Clerk.
Okay, thank you.
Next item.
Item number 6, Department of Recreation and Parks report relative to authorization to accept economic development initiative funds through the Consolidated Appropriation Acts of 2008 from the Department of Housing and Urban Development for park projects in connection with the MacArthur Park project.
Okay.
Regina Adams, Executive Officer, Recreation and Parks. This is for the council approval or retroactive approval for $196,000 in funding for restroom improvement at MacArthur Park.
Thank you so much on behalf of many of the people that are waiting in line.
Very good, Ed. All right, so ordered. Next item.
All right.
Item number 7, communication from the Los Angeles for Kids Steering Committee relative to financial report and findings pursuant to Government Code Section 66000 in connection with the Parks First Trust Fund Program, formerly Council File Number 001999 and 001999-S1.
Claudia Aguilar with the CAO's office. Before you is a financial report on the Parks First Trust Fund, which is part of the Vermont Western Station Neighborhood Plan. State law requires that we report on accounting, spending, and reporting of these fees and the related interest that it's acquired. Parks First Trust Fund has received just over $1 million in deposits and has earned $131,000 in interest. The state requires that we make findings stating that these funds shall only be used for the purpose of land acquisitions, development, and improving and maintaining parks and open space that is physically located within the boundaries of the SNAP. State law also requires that we identify the expenditures from this fund. However, we have not had any expenditures to date. The city released an RFP requesting competitive grant proposals. BOE is currently reviewing those, and the steering committee will make recommendations to the city council to award the grants under this program. State law also requires that the item be heard no less than 2 weeks from when the items are first made available to the public, meaning we cannot go to council before July 8th. Other than that, we ask for the item to be heard by the council.
So you want us to go forward?
Yes.
All right, we move it. Thank you so
Second.
much, Mr. Reyes. Is there any other public comment? Mr. Clerk, anything else in front of us?
No other comments.
So this matter is committee hereby adjourned. Thank you very much.
Good job, Mr. Chair. I think we